For the next part of the 902 coverage, I want to talk about projection textures and shaders. And this takes us further with the camera matching that we've already done a couple of videos ago. So let's go ahead and reiterate what we did with camera matching, because that's imperative to actually get the projection shaders to work. So in this setup tab, we're going to select the camera, and down under background image, we're going to hit load. And in the images folder with the course, there's a number of Chicago images I put in there. You can use on your own. There's Chicago image, some bikes. We want to load the Metro Stop. Okay, so we're going to load that up. That'll become a background image. And let's make sure that our camera is set to camera or render camera. From there, set resolution from clip. Matches the camera to the resolution. You can actually see the readout right there. Okay. Then let's turn on match to background. Go to the tool properties. Let's pick some axis. We definitely want the y-axis up and down, and I think z forward. So with the y-axis, we're going to then just click and drag. That's one y-axis. Let's do another one down here. Click and drag. And that will help the system determine which way is up. The next one it'll know is my z, and so that will go from there to there, down the z. Like that. And let's do one over here. Click to here, to here. Easy enough. From there, we're going to go set camera to matcher. You'll see the plane adjust accordingly. You can see that line go right down there. It looks good. Now, that's where we were before with our camera matching. At this point, what we're going to do is actually build some geometry. And then we're going to project this image onto that geometry, which is kind of cool. So let's open up the model tab here. We're going to keep this really simple. And you can do most of this with really basic geometry, which is kind of nice. So we're going to take a cube and we're just going to draw a pillar over this one, like that. Now I'll pull it down on the Z a little bit. Turn that off, turn it on, and let's draw another one back here like this. And I'm going to go all the way up. I'm not going to worry too much about precision there, and we're going to just pull that out. Now, I'm really not drawing this far beyond this one, even though it kind of looks like it. So for that, what I want to do is make sure I get to my perspective view, and here you can see I'll move it to that approximate distance. And from there, go back to my camera view and adjust accordingly. That way, I know it's back behind this one, depending on how I want to animate. All right, so got a couple of pillars there, easy enough. From here, what we want to do is go over to the shader tree, add layer, and from special, we want projection shader. Okay, we're going to choose our image that's already loaded. Now, I can't see anything because I'm in a shaded view, so change this to advanced. Give it a second depending on your system. And what you're going to see is the background image with this projection. It's mapped right on there, which is great. So I also want to make sure that my camera has the background image visible. Background image here, that's good. And let's go ahead and take a look at the render. And voila, we now have that mapped on there. So what is happening? Well, not necessarily much, right? But here's where it gets kind of fun. Let's go over here to perspective. Press the A key. Press O. Drawing control and, under visibility, not drawing control. Make sure cameras are on. So here's our camera that's all aligned with our camera matching. It's showing that projection on there. In fact, you could make this an advanced view and you'll see that there is the image mapped on there. But I want to be able to see the rest of the image. Well, don't forget that when we did the camera matching, it locks the camera. See that little lock right there? I can't do much with it. That's okay though, because what we can do is duplicate it. So I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to rename this one Anim Camera, and I'm going to right click on it again and unlock it. So now I have a duplicate that I can move. Now when I press the W command for the Anim Camera and I make sure that I'm visibly seeing the Anim Camera, and we'll get back to this in a minute here. Notice that when I choose move, I can actually push in on those pillars. and animate through this image, which is really cool. So all I need to do now for this camera is go here to my background image and add that in. All right. And so now I'm actually creating an animation for this image. So take this a step further. Now I would need to build the rest of the pillars, okay? Possibly add in geometry for the ground, but then I could put a 3D object in there. And don't forget, that's not just zooming. I can actually pan a little bit too, depending on how much geometry I build. All right, so you got to be careful with how much you do, because this can fall apart pretty easily, and you don't want to move around too much. But if you build enough geometry and it maps to everything, you essentially are just projection mapping your image across all this geometry. So very much like building geometry, creating UV maps, baking it all in, then reloading it all, like we kind of did in olden times. Well, now you're actually just projecting it. And it's a really great way to work, especially if you want to create some realism. So imagine building, well, taking a kitchen scene like we did earlier, or building a room or a living room. You can map very simple geometry with real photographs and suddenly move through and have a very realistic 3D animation without tons of intense models or crazy lighting. So I'm going to save the scene. You can load it up and play with it. Add to it, add more geometry for other pillars, and start animating through it. It's really cool.